Hello, friends. Have you ever wondered what's going on at the back of this brilliant fast food show? While you're eating a cheeseburger and scrolling through the feed, real dramas, comedies, and even thrillers are unfolding in the kitchen. Today, it's pure fire from those who really work hard in this hell and heaven. Shock, humor, secrets, all in one bottle. Let's go. So, this was about 3 months after I started working at Wendy's. I was managing the sandwich station, making all the burgers and wraps and such, when this couple came in. The guy was about average height and rather scrawny and was fidgety, while the lady, she was rather large, to put it nicely, and wearing tight-fitted and revealing clothing. They ordered 4 of the smaller burgers, which wasn't too out of the ordinary, until the lady leaned across the counter and said in a low, breathy voice, "I'm going to eat all of these burgers and get really fat." I paused mid-burger and looked over at them. I swear the man looked like he just came a little, while my boss, who was managing the cash register, giggled a little bit and gave her the price. After we gave them their burgers, she said it again, pressing her giant boobs into the counter. "I'm going to eat all of these burgers and get really fat." "Okay, go to your table already." When they finally head over to their table, my boss turns to me. She looks like she's about to burst out laughing. "Did you hear that?" Yes, I did. I'm trying to erase the memory. "I'm going to go ask if they need anything else." Boss, no. Boss, yes. So my boss, who is by no means a small lady herself, walks over to their table with the customer service smile. The man looked like he wanted to jump over the small table and take his lady friend right there, or be the mayonnaise she was licking off her sausage fingers that squished out of the burgers. If only that dang table wasn't stopping him. His hands were gripping the offending table tightly, causing his knuckles to go white. The lady all the while making bedroom eyes at him as she slowly devoured the burgers. I saw all this while, behind the safety of 3 tables, a counter, and a bun toaster. I don't know how my boss kept a straight face. When she got back, she told us the details. The lady gave my boss her number so she could join them one day while mayonnaise dribbled down her chin. After that, the couple rushed out and we never saw them again. And yes, she did eat all the burgers. TL Doctor, I'm going to eat all of these burgers and get really fat. As a young married mom, I took a job at a taco restaurant. Time flies. It was 1989. Bill and Donna, the couple who owned the restaurant, were very nice. My co-workers were mostly teens of the nice variety, and it was not a boring job. I had a great time getting to know the regular customers and chatting with new ones. I wasn't making a lot of money, which seems to be the recurring theme of my life, but it was enough to keep us ahead of the sharks. The kids I worked with was Judy. She was 16, very sweet and small. She just cracked me up. She blushed easily and went out of her way to be nice to everyone. Usually worked in the drive-through window of our little restaurant. For some reason, she could interpret the wah 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 that most of us heard from the tinny little speaker the customers spoke into better than the rest of us. Easier to have her work there than to say repeatedly, "What? Could you repeat that, please?" and have the customers scream themselves into a hemorrhage in a Jeep. It had a top, but no doors. Judy handed his order out the window and turned back into the kitchen, blushing bright red and nearly hyperventilating. "Judy, what's wrong?" Bill cried. Once she recovered a bit, she said, That man in the Jeep didn't have any clothes on. Well, of course he was long gone. Couldn't get a license plate number or a description. We figured we wouldn't see him again, but we were wrong. At least once a week, he drove through naked in his Jeep. We called the police, and they told us that as long as he made no threat to anyone, did not say anything of a sexual nature, and stayed in his vehicle, he was not breaking any laws. Ted, Judy was working the drive up. I really think he did it on purpose, just to see her blush. I'm sure the perverted bastard got a real thrill out of it. We all learned to recognize his voice over the speaker and tried to make sure Judy wasn't at the window when his order was ready, but out of some strange sort of pride, she usually said, "No, I will do it." I got tired of him doing the same stupid thing. I really liked Judy. She had a sense of humor over the whole thing, and it was sort of funny, but damn, one afternoon, I went out to the overgrown weedy lot behind the restaurant and picked a bunch of desiccated plant stalks. I brought them in, arranged them a bit, and wrapped a burrito wrapper around the bottom, sort of like the way they wrap bouquets of flowers. I taped it, stuck on a bow I'd found in the trash, and waited a few days for the perv to show. He finally did, about a week later. Judy, of course, was working the drive up. When she turned away from the speaker to put the order up, I grabbed the weeds and exchanged places with her. Perv drove up to the window and looked surprised to see a different face. I said, "Hi," and handed him the bouquet of weeds. "We had a contest, and you won first prize for your dried arrangement." He looked surprised, then shocked, then embarrassed. "Ha ha. Bare-assed, ha ha ha, oh my gosh," I cracked me up, and drove away, squeaking his tires and leaving without his order, at least not while I was working there. I've been a manager at a fast food restaurant for the past 10 years, and I could go on all day about all of the things I've seen in my time there, but there's a few that really stand out in my mind. First, there was a woman who was getting free milkshakes for a period of 4 months. She came through the drive-through every other week or so, claiming she had come through the other day, and her milkshake was runny. She always claimed she spoke to the manager, and they told her to come through and receive a free milkshake. When we would ask her if she left a name, she would always say, "Yeah, I'm not sure who called. It would be under Black or Smith. I'm not sure what name they left." Now normally, we would require a receipt to give something for free, but we don't typically give out receipts for just drinks. We put them in bags with food, but if somebody just gets a drink, we just hand them the drink. So there wasn't really any way to prove she was making it up. She was an older woman too, borderline elderly, and we honestly wouldn't expect an elderly woman to be stealing from us. This worked for her for about 4 months before I wasn't having any of it anymore. The last time she came through, I finally called her out on her bullshit. I told her she has already received several free milkshakes, and I'm not handing out another milkshake without a receipt. She drove off, and we haven't seen her since. The next story I thought was really funny was an ex-employee trying to get free food and failing. She thought she was being particularly clever because she used to work there, but she worked there an entire year before this, and a lot had changed she didn't know about. First she called saying, "Yeah, I came through the drive-through a couple of days ago and my food was cold. I got 2 ham and cheese sandwiches and 2 orders of fries. The manager on duty told me I could come and receive the food for free, so I was going to come down and pick it up in about an hour. I spoke to Tasha." Now, what was funny was that Tasha had quit about 6 months prior. I said, "Are you sure you spoke to Tasha?" Like she said that was her name. She said, "Yes, definitely, Tasha." I asked her name just in case she didn't write down my order. "So, can I come pick it up?" That's when I informed her that was impossible because Tasha doesn't work there anymore. She sat silently before hanging up on me. Then she had her sister call back almost immediately. Her sister said, "Yeah, I came through the drive-thru earlier and got the 2 for $3 double cheeseburger deal. We didn't even have that anymore." I just sighed and said, "We don't do that anymore." She said, "What?" "I just got it earlier." I told her that wasn't possible because it's been so long that we have had that. We don't even have the key in the system anymore to ring it up, and most of the new employees don't even know we ever had that. She hung up on me also. Now the last one just happened yesterday. A woman came up to the counter about 3 months ago. She was a middle-aged woman dressed nicely, not the typical person you see trying to scam food. It's usually younger people. She said, "Yeah, I came through the drive-thru earlier during lunch with my coworkers. When we got back to work, I noticed I got a grilled chicken instead of fried. I called, and the man on the phone told me to bring my ID and it would be replaced." She was handing me her ID, and we did have a man running shift in the morning. I thought maybe he said receipt, and she misunderstood, so I replaced the food. Anyways, same lady came back yesterday. I wasn't actually waiting on her, but I overheard her tell the same exact story to the girl who was. I interrupted and said, "Excuse me, do you have a receipt?" She got a very confused expression on her face and said, "No, he told me to bring my ID." I went to check and see if her name was written down, and surprise, it wasn't. I told her I would need to see a receipt. She started pretending to dig around in her purse for a second before she said, "I don't have it. He didn't say I would need it." I told her I couldn't replace the sandwich. That's when she got very angry and said, "I'm not asking you to replace it," even though she just did. I was with my coworkers. I couldn't come back because I had to return to work. All of this over a damn chicken sandwich. I said, "Yes, ma'am, we asked for receipts anytime we replace food." She proceeded to ask for my name and said she would be calling my boss in the morning. She stomped out the door. I worked at a McDonald's in Iowa for around 3 years. One Sunday, I got called to come in and help with the lunch rush as they were having troubles. Figuring I would only be assisting them through rush, I would come in for a couple hours. Dear Lord, I had no idea what I was in for. The second I walk into the place, I get the utter most disgusting and gut-wrenching smell I've ever faced. The sewer had backed up and was coming up through drainage grates in the floor all throughout the back of the store. There were literal turds floating in shit water, about 1 inch high, from behind the counter all the way to the back by the storage. I told the managers that were working we had to close down immediately because this violates countless health codes. I was told to call the owner and tell him this. Everyone else was afraid of the old money-hungry hag. After explaining the situation to him, he basically told me to nut up and squeegee the shit out the back door. So that's what we did. There were countless comments from customers about what the smell was, so I blatantly told them exactly what it was. Not a single one left. Not a single one gave a fuck. They all ordered their food even though they could see the feces. This is also the day I lost hope in people. I got so many stories about this hellhole. If you live in Iowa, take notice. Same guy owns 3 different McDicks. This doesn't have to do with McDonald's food, as the store I worked in was fairly sanitary and I never encountered anything gross happening. Then again, I worked the morning day shift, and the people seemed to be much cleaner and more diligent than the afternoon and night crew. However, I had put in my 2 weeks' notice because I got a different, nicer, thankfully, job. One of my last days of work, something extremely fucked up happened. A young woman brought her 2 children with her to the store, not an unusual thing. The same day, a large group of senior citizens from a local retirement home were there as well. One of the old ladies walks up to the counter and tells the boss that one of the bathroom stall doors was locked, and she could see a woman's legs on the ground. She knocked on the door to no response and therefore told us. Our managers got in there and found the woman passed out on the ground, and she was apparently turning purple and not breathing. She drank a bottle of bleach that she brought with her and left her 2 kids in the play area while she tried to kill herself in our bathroom. These children were about 3-4 years old. All of the employees were freaking out, crying, etc. The paramedics and police came, and there was a huge commotion. Everyone thought she was dead. However, the paramedics were fortunately able to revive her. I'd like to believe it was an adrenaline shot through the heart, Pulp Fiction style, but I honestly have no idea how, and she was sent to the hospital. Needless to say, I made sure I never stepped foot in that bathroom again.